Hey, what's going on, guys? Kalamazi here, and today I want to talk to you guys about legendaries, legendary gear, and also what slots I think are probably the best pieces for you to craft those legendary effects on. I've been getting a tremendous amount of questions about it on stream, on YouTube, basically everywhere anybody can reach me lately, and I felt at this point, with the raid being, I don't know what, I guess what, 6 days away or so, 5 days, depending on what time it is, that it's time to start talking about this stuff. So we'll start off talking about legendary effects, Destro, Demo, Affliction, which ones I think are good, which ones I am eyeing at this point, and then we'll get into what slots we probably are looking to craft them on most likely. Now, I will say, it is important to note that heroic tuning most likely will happen, whether we're affected or changed, buffed or nerfed or not, I don't know. It is important for you to check back the channel on YouTube for any buffs, any nerfs, any changes. Check on Twitch to see if anything has changed, because I got yelled at a lot last time about covenants being different and everything else, and everybody missed my Night Fate video. So be sure to check back on the channel. At the same time, I am not crafting any legendaries until Mythic Week to sort of try and counteract any class tuning that we might end up getting Heroic Week. Now, they might not tune legendaries themselves, but they might end up buffing a spec, nerfing a spec, which in return could very well make certain legendaries better, certain ones worse. Now, I'm not saying you can't craft any this week. If you already have, great. If you want to craft some, still, great, go for it. I think some choices are probably a little safer than others, but for the most part, just keep in mind that heroic tuning typically always does happen, and that could skew things a bit legendary wise. So personally for me, I am not making any until we set foot, well, probably about half an hour, until we set foot into Mythic Castle Nathria. So let's get into it, look at some sims that I ran for my own character, and talk about which legendary effects I am most excited about, and the most important ones I feel at this current point in time heading into Castle Nathria. So starting things off with Affliction, there are 4 Affliction-based legendaries, and then 2 generic ones being Demonic Synergy and Wilfred's Sigil. The ones that are highlighted here I've already acquired, so I don't have a handful of these. The 4 AF ones, Wrath of Consumption, for the most part, if you don't know what it does, you can read the tooltip. I'm not going to go crazy in depth on every single one here. I'm not incredibly excited about this effect for the raid. It's better in Mythic Plus, where things are dying frequently. You can chain from pack to pack, mob to mob, whatever, what have you, and keep the buff rolling. I have this effect. It is not one that I'm looking at like making early on. I'm not really crazy excited about Wrath of Consumption. I think it could be good in certain settings in the raid, maybe on like Sun King Salvation, maybe on like Stone Legion Generals, for example, but I think there are better options. Wilfred's is the generic one here. We'll come back to it in a second. Second, or I guess third off, is Sacrilash's Dark Strike. Basically, corruption slow and increased corruption damage. This effect, once again, is okay. Probably holds more merit in Mythic Plus. Maybe a couple fights like Sun King Salvation, or fights where you have absolute corruption for a bit of a damage increase. But even with that being said, I think there are better options if you're looking for a raw damage amp. And Sacrilash's Dark Strike is not one that I'm incredibly excited about crafting in the raid. The 2 big heavy hitters that are based around Affliction are Perpetual Agony of Azakir and Malefic Wrath. This is basically 20% more shard generation for Agony. So pulling up the sims that I ran here, let's start off over here. This is with my own character and everything. Keep that in mind. I'll have a link to these sims in the video description if you want to check them out. 5 minutes, 1 boss target. Vision of Demonic Synergy, number 1. Slowly, or pretty close behind it, you have Agony Charge in here. Demonic Synergy, for what it's worth, is this right here. The 15%, it's 10% for Affliction. I'm just in Demonology right now. The 10% damage increase to your pet and 10% to you. It's 3 RPPM per minute, and they can overlap. We can have them both proc at the same time. It's just solid all around. Malefic Wrath is the one that increases your Drain Soul damage. Now, you have to maintain this debuff, or this buff, I suppose, on yourself, and it only lasts 8 seconds. So on fights, it's not as easy to maintain as it may seem, because you're trying to get a lot of Drain Soul value in as well, while also min-maxing around your dot uptime, multiple Rapture cast, all of that. But going to the sims here, as far as raw patchwork single target DPS for Affliction goes, number 1, Relic of Demonic Synergy. Damage done by your pet basically procs it on you. You can see here it's 10% for AF Destro and 15 for Demonology. This is a very strong legendary. It might be a bit bland and a bit boring in a sense, but this is a very strong effect. It is a flat 10% damage increase for you or your pet whenever it procs. They proc individually. Like I said, 3 random procs per minute. They can overlap. You can have one proc, you can have one proc and then proc again 3 seconds later. The duration is not stacked. It is 15 seconds. This has a very high uptime though. In Mythic Plus, it's seen around 60 to 70% uptime. It's really strong. And comparatively to something like Agony or Malefic Wrath, it's pretty much set it and forget it. You follow your normal rotation, you kill the boss, and you move on with life. It might not be incredibly flashy or incredibly exciting, but on a fight like Council of Blood, the dance boss, for example, we tested that fight a lot. We played Malefic Wrath, we played Agony Shard Gen. It is very, very hard on a fight like that to get Malefic Rapture value, or I guess Malefic Wrath Drain Soul value. It is very hard. There are so many things going on. You have Agony rolling on 3 targets, Siphon and Corruption on the other one with Haunt, Singularity, a million mechanics to move around. Trying to Rapture 3 times in a row and then Drain for value is so hard in that fight. And it's not just Dance Boss. It can be seen on Stone Legion Generals, a handful of other fights, Sun King Salvation, for example. So while this effect might sim high single target, it's a tiny bit ahead of Agony Shard Gen here on a ring. I'm not as high on this effect as I am Agony Shard Gen. Agony Shard Gen is once again a raw passive effect for the most part, but on a fight like Dance Boss or even Stone Legion Generals, at times reacting to mechanics or having just redot things, you come close to shard capping, if not the capping on shards and overcapping. Demonic Synergy has no issues with that. You follow your rotation, you do things when you need to, and that's it. This is a very, very, very strong effect. And the crazy thing is, with Demonic Synergy, this is good across well, you can play it across every single spec. You can play Wilfred's basically too across every single spec, but let's be real, nobody cares about a 2-minute Dark Lair or whatever, because Dark Lair sucks. It's not good. Synergy is good across every spec. So if you're asking me at this current point in time to summarize, let me go over AoE sims here too. AoE sims for Affliction, you can see Agony Ring pulls ahead. This is a 4-target sim for 3 minutes. Agony pulls ahead, followed by Demonic Synergy, and then you have a different version of Agony Ring, and you also have Agony Shard Gen chest here too. So, and also Corruption Legendary. Malefic Wrath is way down here. It loses so much value. It's with 4 targets comparatively to 1. It's also harder to maintain a higher uptime. So at this current point in time, if you're asking me to rank the legendaries, let's say 1 through 3 for Castle Nathria, not taking Mythic Plus into account, just really Castle Nathria. Number 1 for Affliction, Relic of Demonic Synergy. This has a lot of crossplay with Demo and Destro as well. Technically, you can make it for Affliction and play it on all 3 specs if you really want, if you want to mix it up a bit in Nathria. Number 2, Perpetual Agony of Azakir, 20% Agony Shard Gen. And number 3, followed by Malefic Wrath. Now, once again, they're all better and worse in certain settings. This loses value in multi-target, fights with a lot of movement, like Dance Boss, like Stone Legion Generals. But it gains value in fights that are single targets and have execute damage side of them. It still sims relatively well. It's just that, well, like I said, you can't really maintain multiple stacks of Malefic Wrath and get this big drain value in when you're doing 10,000 different mechanics. Agony Shard Gen gains more value in multi-target settings. Obviously, more Agonies, more Shard Gen. And really just being a strong set it and forget it kind of ability that gives you more shards for your Rapture windows, whatever, what have you. But once again, Demonic Synergy, just a flat 10% damage increase with a pretty high uptime. You're looking at probably 55 to 70% if you get a bit lucky for you and your pet. Now, comparatively to Demo, Aff and Destro deal more damage as a player. Demo, it deals a good bit of pet damage, which is why it's 15% for Demo. But regardless, if you're asking 1 through 3, this is personally at this current point in time, December 4th at 1:05 in the morning, how I have them ranked for Castle Nathria, not really Mythic Plus. If you're looking at it for Mythic Plus, I would put probably Perpetual Agony as number 1, with Relic of Demonic Synergy as number 2. You also have access to things like Malefic Wrath and, Corruption Legendary, all of that. But for the most part, I think the most power you're going to get is gated behind Synergy and Perpetual Agony Mazakir. These are just strong effects, and even though it's sort of set it and forget it, it's still just, it's just a strong effect. It's just solid. Aff is looking good in Castle Nathria. You're probably going to play a decent bit of it on a lot of fights, even though there could be a few sleeper builds coming up, which we'll talk about in a later video this week. Demonic Synergy is good across the board. Shard Gen, solid, and Malefic Wrath could potentially see a little bit of play, depending on fight you play it on. Let's talk a bit about Destruction. So talking Destro here, you have 4 Destro legendaries, which are obviously, spec based, and you have 2 generic ones. Empress of the Diabolic Raiment, I'm not incredibly excited about. It's a cool effect, but there are just better, more powerful legendaries that are out there. Odir, once again, this effect can indeed be used single target. You can put Havoc, if, for example, like you're on a Patchwork boss, like Sludge Fist, you can put Havoc on that boss, and you will deal 25% increased damage to that target. So technically there is some single target value here, which you'll see reflected in sims when we get to them. Madness of Azakir, this is I believe an old tier bonus. It's okay. it doesn't really feel legendary to me. It feels like a tier bonus. I'm not crazy high on this effect either. The big Destro one that you should be looking at, the Destro base one, is Cinders of Azakir. This is a pretty big one. Conflict rate has 1 additional charge and has its recharge time reduced by 3 seconds baseline. Keep in mind, the conflict rate's baseline cooldown is reduced more by your current haste levels. Now, looking at our talents here, there's a pretty cool interaction. If you're playing single target Destro in the raid, this is probably more or less going to be the build you look at playing. Soulfire, Entropy, Kata, Roaring Blaze, and Channel Demon Fire. There is some play with IC, something higher here. I hope it doesn't end up working out because I hate IC. But either way, Roaring Blaze, uptime, conflict rate being cast, 3 charge of conflict rate, higher Roaring Blaze uptime, the baseline cooldown being reduced by 3 seconds. At this current point in time, it'd probably be around like 11.5 seconds, or sorry, 8.5 seconds or so for me. So it's guaranteeing a pretty high RB uptime in the first place. This, I feel, is going to be your mainstay go-to single target, and quite possibly, depending on how things go, 2 target legendary in Nathria. It's just really strong. Destro might not be your best bet when it comes to single target, but this legendary, this effect does indeed feel legendary and does a lot for the spec. It's synergistic. It works with Roaring Blaze. It gives you more hasted spells. It just feels better as a whole. When you look at the 2 generic ones, once again, we'll start off here with Synergy. Synergy is just good. Once again, it is, excuse me, it is, why is it showing 15% here, actually? That's awkward. Interesting. It should be 10%. I guess it's a bit of a, there we go. I had to change it back again. So it's 10% damage increase for you and your demon whenever it procs. They proc independently, 3 RPPM. This, once again, has a very strong uptime. Very high uptime, 55 to 70% depending what you're doing at this current point in time. This is just a strong effect. A flat damage increase is good. It's set it and forget it, but it's just solid. So this is a good single target. It's not bad to target. It might even edge out Embers maybe by a tiny bit, and it's pretty solid AoE too. The final effect here. Oh yeah, I forgot about Wilfred's. Wilfred's. So Wilfred's is going to be your go-to Reign of Chaos, like playing this build here. Really playing Reign of Chaos in the first place. I feel playing this build here, Rain, Soul Conduit, Inferno, on the couple fights you might end up playing at Nathria, this is going to be your go-to legendary. It'll get you your 2-minute, sub 2-minute Inferno, depending on what you're doing. It's incredibly strong. Reign of Chaos with Inferno Brand Conduit, with Wilfred's, with Soul Conduit, with Inferno, giving more shard gen. The AoE ceiling, like the damage ceiling here, none of these abilities are target capped. The damage ceiling is so incredibly high with this build in Mythic Plus and Nathria on like these large AoE fights. It's really, really strong. Now, in Mythic Plus, if your tank is not pulling around your Infernal, well, okay, you don't deal much damage outside of it with this build. It's a big all-in build in a sense. But with Wilfred's reducing the cooldown on your main Infernal, it just feels super synergistic and brings a lot of value to most settings. Looking at the sims that I ran here for Destro, single target. Once again, we see triple conflict, like we said, playing Combusting Engine. We're not playing Soulfire here. Same thing, it's fine, doesn't matter. But triple conflict here, followed relatively closely by Relic of Demonic Synergy. It's about 40-ish DPS or so off. It's not too far off. Third here, we have the Havoc Legendary, which it does work single target, a 25% damage increase. It's still there. You have Wilfred's relatively far down the list here, but it's single target. And when you're simming Wilfred's in sims, a good bit of the time, the duration of the sim plays a huge part in the actual value that it has. I don't rate Wilfred's very high single target, but it is exceptionally good in AoE with Reign of Chaos. Moving on to the AoE Destro sims here, you no longer see triple conflag here. You see Wilfred's, and it's ahead by a pretty substantial bit over Demonic Synergy, about 400. We are playing Reign of Chaos here, we are playing Inferno, we're not even playing Soul Conduit, we're not even playing Inferno. But you can see how much power Reign of Chaos has, or I guess Wilfred's has, with Reign of Chaos. It is indeed on the bracers here, we'll get to that in a little while, later on in the video, but the value that Wilfred's brings with a shorter Inferno is just incredibly, incredibly strong. Now you can see second here, once again, we have Demonic Synergy, Helm, followed relatively close by triple conflag Pants, and then you have Havoc. Then this is sort of, in AoE, it's sort of going to be give or take here. I don't think triple conflag is terrible in AoE, because you can Havoc multiple conflict rates, more conflict rates in a Havoc window, more shard gen, faster Chaos Bolt cast, more spells cast in said window. Rolling Havoc is no longer a thing. It's still a fine option, but you can see the power of Wilfred's here. It's truly just exceptional. So when it comes to ranking these effects, it's hard to say. I'll be real. I don't really think there's a way to just say what's best and what's worse. I think you just put, like, the three front runners are going to be Demonic Synergy. They're going to be Wilfrids. And they're, I mean, with Cinders for the most part. Cinders, triple conflag. If you're going single target, like I said, I feel you'll want Cinders. I feel you're going to want Cinders. It's going to be higher roaring waste of time. It's going to be just more hasted spells being cast. Even two target Cinders could be a very good choice, but Demonic Synergy once again gains ground in multi-target settings. If you're going mass AoE, Wilfrids is going to be your choice, I feel. And once again, there are a couple fights this tier, looking at like Sun King Salvation, potentially Stone Legion Generals, maybe another fight where you want to play Wilfrids, like Dog Boss potentially. It gains a lot of value. Demonic Synergy is your great middle ground. It's good single target. It's decent AoE. It's, once again, just a good legendary across the board. It's not as strong single target as it is for Affliction, but it's still there. So if I was going to be crafting legendaries for destruction, heading into Nathria, I would, if I've already made Demonic Synergy, let's say for example, my eyes would probably more or less be on Wilfrids and plan on playing Destro single target, or maybe Demonology, depending on what's going on. But at this current point in time, looking at Aff and Destro, of the options here, Synergy is just the front runner. It's just really good for Aff and solid for Demonology, or solid for destruction. It's just not bad. Flat damage increase doesn't really make you change your rotation up any crazy amount. It's just good. Wilfrid's AoE, Cinder single target, Demonic Synergy, all around. The three choices I have at this current point for Destro. It's too hard to rank them because they're really good in different settings. So Demonology legendaries are pretty interesting. You have 4 spec-based ones, and you have 2 generic ones, being Synergy and Wilfrids again. Basically, every single legendary that you can use for Demonology is applicable in different settings. It makes things sort of awkward. So let's just start off here. Grim Inquisitors is probably the least exciting. It increases your Dreadstalker's damage based off the number of Hand of Gul'dans you cast. You can play this in the FTS Dreadlash Demonic Calling build that you have for Demonology that we play in Mythic Plus. I think there are probably better options in this in the first place regardless, but that is the build I would play this in. This build here, I was going to run this legendary. I don't think it's very good in the raid. Forces of the Horned Nightmare, though, this is a bit different. Hand of Gul'dan has a 15% chance to cast the second time on your target for free. So the way this works, if you put 3 shards into a Hand of Gul'dan and this procs, you'll get 3 imps out of both hands. 6 total. If you put 2 shards for whatever reason into a Hand of Gul'dan and it procs, you'll get 2 imps out of the proc, and the same goes for 1. So it depends. It's based off of what Hand of Gul'dan you actually cast, how many shards are in it. This is a solid all-around legendary. It's good single target, it's good AoE, it's good in Mythic Plus, good in the raid, because Hand of Gul'dan is your main soul shard spender. And the splash damage is not completely irrelevant. It does a decent bit. It's a decent bit of your makeup when it comes to AoE settings. Implosive Potential. So this was changed about a month before beta ended to now not be dead single target. The big thing here is the haste increase when you implode on 3 or more targets. Because your Tyrant no longer consumes imps, it extends them now and just takes some of their health away. We've had 100 plus haste implosions with this, imploding 20 plus imps, like 25 I think was their record at this point. We haven't tried very hard. That's 125% haste. Now, like, I live in Florida, even I can do that math. It's pretty insane. It only lasts 8 seconds, but the crazy thing is, I mean, if you're in Mythic Plus and AoE settings, you're probably imploding around the 8-second mark, give or take, depending on resources. It's a very, very, very strong stacked, like, AoE legendary. I'm a big fan of Implosive Potential, probably a bigger fan than most everybody else. Wilfrids. Every soul shard you spend reduces the cooldown of Summon Infernal. It should be Summon Demonic Tyrant. Just a bit buggy here. Sorry, boys. There you go. By 0.6 seconds. So this effect is interesting. It is similar to VOP, like it was, like we have in, or I guess had in BFA. The thing with this, it's not a guaranteed minute 8 every single time. Playing this build here, though, Dreadlash Calling from the Shadows, Soul Conduit, Demonic Consumption in Mythic Plus. You're not playing your Vile Fiend. You're not playing your Grimoire Felguard. Playing Wilfrids with these talents made things awkward because it might reduce your Tyrant to like maybe like a minute 8 or so. But you're still probably waiting for these things to come back around, or you're sitting on random cooldowns from time to time. Playing this build here, you don't worry about it. A shorter Tyrant, you hit it on cooldown, and you go. If you're playing from the Shadows, you'll probably end up playing the Carnivorous Stalkers Conduit. That gives them a chance to Dreadbite again. Extending your Dreadstalkers with a shorter timer cooldown means they have more chances to dread bite again. I mean, if you extend your set of dogs, you will be able to cast your second set of dogs before the first ones even expire, giving you a much higher chance to reproc from the shadows and Dreadlash. It's really insane. A very strong, super synergistic spec and build. Wilfred's is solid when it comes to that build. It also has some value, like single target wise. We'll get to that in a little bit. Balespider's Burning Core. This increases demon bolt damage. It was, the actual percent has been reduced to 8 from 25, I believe 25, maybe it was 50, but they gave it a duration and it's no longer consumed upon casting a demon bolt. So this is a much more improved version of Balespider's Burning Core. It's going to be pretty much a single target legendary. There are some people that were talking about playing it as Necrolord Demo with like Power Siphon and Demonic Decimating Bolt, all those damage amps. I think it's sort of fallen out of, well, out of favor a bit, single target wise. I think it's okay, but there's probably going to be some stronger builds that emerge when it comes to Demo looking at single target, I guess, bosses and settings. The final one here, we have Relic of Demonic Synergy. We know what it is. Unlike Destro and Af, this one has a 15% damage increase for you and your demon. Your demon, this is only your main demon. Your Felguard, your imp, these things. No, not your little imps, not your Dreadstalkers, nothing. Just these things. It does not affect Grimoire Felguard. Just this right here. So the reason, at least I assume, why this is 15 for Demonology and not 10 like it is the others, your Felguard deals more damage as Demonology, but you, the player, don't deal a whole lot. You cast Shadow Bolts and Implosions and things, but for the most part, your pets deal more damage. So having your pet buffed by this, when you're casting Demonic Strength and things, maybe even playing the Fel Commando conduit, can lead to a pretty insane damage increase. This is a 10% damage increase at, 171. If you get them both proccing at the right time, or fish for a proc and get one in the middle of your Tyrant with Fel Commando with that proccing, your Felguard's going to rip off an insane, huge Demonic Strength. With all that being said, though, let's look at the sims. So Demonology wise, single target. This is AoE. Let's go single target. There we go. Highest simming legendary for me is Band of the Horned Nightmare. This is the Hand of Gul'dan, 15% chance to cast a second time for free. Now, I will say, it's important to talk a bit about sims here. So, for the past probably 2 or 3 weeks, we've had a weird build simming the highest for Demonology. It's been like Sack Souls, Inner Demons, I think maybe like Power Siphon, a really weird build. I spoke with Shelley last night. I'll have a link to his channel down below. If you're not subbed to him, you should go do it and check him out on Twitch as well. He told me he spent a long time digging through logs and things, I guess APLs on raid bots, and found the issue why Sack Souls Inner Demons was simming so much higher than Demonic Consumption and Grimoire Felguard. So in Shadowlands, one of the leveling abilities, I don't know if we can see it here or not, let me see, is that your imps now cast a 6th time before they expire. They cast 5 times, or I guess they casted. They cast 5 times in Legion. They have a energy bar of 100 energy. The bar was not increased in raw energy. So in Legion, or in BFA, they consumed 20 energy per Fel Firebolt cast. In Shadowlands, they consume 16.6 because they're casting 6 Fel Firebolts. The issue was that in Simcraft, the number was changed from 20 to 16, not 16.6. So essentially, when you were running a sim, what would happen was it would have the imps cast 6 times, but then they'd have 4 energy left. So they couldn't cast another Fel Firebolt, but they weren't out of energy. So they didn't despawn. So what it led to was the sim seeing like an average of like 25 imps being active for the majority of the sim, which is why it just gave Sack Soul so much raw power. It's also why Inner Demons was so good, because hey, you're spawning imps randomly from time to time for free. So that is why it was like that. It is fixed in the nightly build. It is fixed in the nightly build. This is before the fixes, but if you want to run those sims, run a nightly build version of Demonology. It should all be fixed hopefully in a few days, but TLDR, that is why. So the single target sims for Demonology. Number 1, we got Horned Nightmare. Hand of Gul'dan casting second timer has a chance to for free. These are all Horned Nightmare, just on different pieces of gear, so keep that in mind. Number 1, it's there. It's just an all-around good legendary effect. It's good in single target. It's good in AoE. You cast it a lot in Mythic Plus. You cast it a lot in the raid. It's Hand of Gul'dan. It's your main soul shard spender. It's there. Number 2, though, you actually have Wilfred's here. Now, I spoke with Not as well. And he mentioned to me that Demonology sims at this current point in time are not optimized around legendaries at all, which means that if this is reducing your Tyrant to a certain amount, it's not holding your Vile Fiend or your Grimoire or whatever timing wise. So it's important to keep that in mind. If you look here, it's only about 60 DPS or so worse than the Hand of Gul'dan one at this point in time, but that's not optimized. If it's optimized, there's a pretty substantial chance that it gains a little bit of value. There's quite possibly a world where you have, a minute 8, a minute 10 Tyrant, maybe a minute 5 or so, depending on your haste levels, and you just hold your Vile Fiend for every single Tyrant, and you hold your Grimoire for every other Tyrant, and that's just the world you live in. I think Wilfred's is solid for Demo. It could be a solid choice single target, depending on the build that you run. So it's important to keep in mind that unlike the Destro and Aff sims, these ones aren't as polished, but it's still important, I feel, to review them and talk to you guys about them. Wilfred's number 2, Horned Nightmare at this point, simming number 1. Could change, keep that in mind. Number 3, once again, Demonic Synergy. Demonic Synergy is just good across the board. It's about 100 DPS or so less than the optimal version of Horned Nightmare that was simmed. It's just good. It's great for Aff, it's good for Destro, and it's good for Demo too. It's a great all-around universal legendary, and if you're playing Fel Commando and things, depending on how this stacks, it probably even potentially gains a bit more value. This is without really fishing for procs. This is without, like we said, APLs and sims really being optimized for Demonology at this point. So it's also important to keep that in mind. Looking at the last 3 here, you've got called Dreadstalkers 1, you've got Demon Bolt 1, and you've got Implosion 1, which is just pretty much a wash because it's probably not even imploding, single target. So these, once again, these are okay. I don't expect these to be very good single target either way. I expect this to be a little better, I'll be real, but at this point I don't know if the APL is optimized around this. I'm gonna take a wild guess and say that it's not. Even if it was, you probably would be looking at playing like Power Siphon, other abilities that give you just more raw Demon Bolt procs, but I just don't feel that build's probably going to be the most competitive. You've got solid legendaries in Wilfred's, in Horned Nightmare, and Demonic Synergy. It's hard to rank these for Demonology. It's tough. So I've given it more X rankings here. Demonic Synergy is good all around. All around. It's good AoE, it's good single target. Let's take a bit of a look at the single target sims here, or AoE sims, by the way, before we get too far into that, because one legendary gains a bit of value. 4 targets, 3 minutes. Implosion Helm. Yep, that's that. There's a pretty substantial difference here between the second best one and the first best one. But now it looks awesome, it looks crazy flashy, and it's really cool. But this is a permanent 4 targets for 3 minutes that are stacked. So you're going to have a pretty substantial haste buff for 4 minutes. It makes sense as to why it's so good. It's important to keep in mind, this legendary is nowhere near as powerful single target. So in Mythic Plus, if you're imploding on trash packs and getting value, that's great. If you go to a boss, you're not getting anywhere near this value. You're getting more than this probably because it's not imploding, but you're not getting much. So it's very good in certain settings, but not the best in single target, unless you can implode on, maybe a couple ads on the boss too. Or hey, 5-head, pull some trash into the boss. But either way, looking at AoE, you've got Implosion Helm very high, a bit skewed, keep that in mind. Number 2, you've got Hand of Gul'dan legendary again, which is very close. It is 4 permanent stack targets, but Hand of Gul'dan splash damage, extra Hand of Gul'dan, more splash damage, bigger implosions. It's still strong, it's still there, it's good single target, it's good AoE. There you go. Number 3, you've got Relic of Demonic Synergy, and it's actually pretty close to Hand of Gul'dan one. It's about 20 DPS difference. Big difference here, but it's very, very close. Multiple targets, flat damage increase, scaling. It's just solid. These are actually other Hand of Gul'dan effects, so that's fine. Moving on a bit, you have called Dreadstalker's effect here. You have Wilfred's here. Once again, I don't think Wilfred's optimized in Sims right now. It's very important to keep that in mind. I think Wilfred's could end up being your best legendary in Mythic Plus. That's not like super skewed like the Implosion Helm is. So keep that in mind. I did run one more sim here, for what it's worth. We actually ran the Implosion build. So this is 2 targets, by the way. This is 2 targets. This is 3 targets. Once again, or the dogs build, I'm sorry. The Carnivorous Stalkers, Dreadstalkers, FTS, Demonic Calling build. Once again, Implosion Helm very high. Moving on past that, you have Hand of Gul'dan legendary here. And then you have Wilfred's. I'm sorry, you have Demonic Synergy, also gaining a bit of value. Wilfred's is relatively low here, like I said. But the APLs are not optimized around this. If they're not optimized for basic stuff from what I've heard, or legendaries, I highly doubt they're optimized for a build like this. I think Wilfred's is undervalued in these sims, and the fact that Wilfred's is good for Destro AoE, and probably, I mean, playable single target for Destro if you really want to, and playable for Demo and Destro, or Demo and single target and AoE is good as well. So like I said, it's hard to rank these legendaries here for Demonology. If I was going into the raid at this point, as long as there's something weird going on with the Forces of Horned Nightmare legendary, I'd be looking at this one for single target. But I would also keep in mind that there probably are going to be some builds that play Wilfred's and just hold Vile Fiend for every tyrant, hold Grimoire for every other tyrant, and go from there. Wilfred's is good single target, Wilfred's is good AoE. The fact that you're crafting Wilfred's or other specs too is also very solid. Synergy, once again, solid single target, solid AoE. Not your best bet from what it seems in either, but a solid second or a solid third. And that's great. Having that utility early on when you only have a couple legendaries puts you in a really good spot, in my opinion. More single target, but also good AoE. Probably a bit more single target-esque. It depends. You can probably just say all around with this one. This is what I'm saying. Demonology is sort of awkward. You have so many effects that are good in multiple settings, and they're all solid in different ones, you know? Bale Spider is going to be your single target choice here, or a single target option. I don't think it's the best at this current point. Impulse potential, huge AoE legendary, but not very strong when it comes to rating single target boss. It's probably going to be dead. And Grim Inquisitor is a bit disappointing. It's not terrible. It's okay for dogs build, but the thing is, you're not playing this dogs build in the raid. This build is much more AoE centric. You're hoping to pull multiple packs back to back in Mythic Plus, spread your Dreadlash or spread your FTS with Dreadlash, have them Dreadbite AoE again, and implode. In the raid, you're going to be looking at a build more so like this, playing Vile Fiend, Consumption, Felguard, and those two builds want very different things. So if I was ranking these, it probably would be about this order, give or take. Best to worst, well, probably swap this around a little bit here. Probably put like Forces being a bit above this. Moving Synergy, probably like second, potentially third. It depends on what builds emerge. It depends on what builds emerge with Wilfred's. But single target, good all around. Horn Nightmare. Relic of Demonic Synergy, good all around. Wilfred's potentially very strong AoE, potentially very strong single target, good Mythic Plus, maybe very good in the raid depending on timings of bosses. Followed by Bale Spiders, Implosive, and Grim Inquisitors. Demonology has a lot of choices. But in the end, depending on what setting you're in, they're all solid options. So now that we've talked a bit about what each legendary does for each spec and the front runners in the raid and Mythic Plus, you might be asking, okay, cool, that's all great, but what piece of gear do I make them on? So the best way to approach this, I'll say right now, this is from a Mythic rating perspective. If you're not planning on killing the final two bosses of Mythic, this could change for you. Now, I plan on killing the final two, so if you're not planning on doing that, it's important to run your own sims regardless, but it's important to keep in mind that you're not going to have access to this high of eye level pieces of gear. The final two bosses in the raid, Stone Legion and Sire Denathrius, they drop 233 eye level gear on Mythic. Everything else in the raid drops 226. So you're looking at, 7 eye levels higher, right? Rank 4 legendaries are 235 eye level. So essentially this is about the same as a rank 4 legendary raw stat wise. So looking at the last two, Stone Legion, cloak, chest, shoulders, finger, and trinkets. There's no legendary trinkets. So the big thing here, there are a lot of legendaries in the game, or a lot of options that share one of those two slots. Look here, for example, both chest and back. So technically, you're going to be overlapping with one of the two final boss effects. Chest is going to be your better bet. I ended up updating the Warlock spreadsheet that I've made again. Once again, if you want to link to it, I'll put it in the comment section. I'll put it in the description. Check it out. I updated this. There's a legendary crafting tab now. I was going to add it to this the basic legendary tab, but there really wasn't a whole lot of room. So there's a tab now. Another one that shows every spec's legendaries: Consumption, Perpetual Agony, Sacrilash, Horn Nightmare, the slots they have, the recommended slots they have. For example, I also added a boss loot table. This is going to get a little bright. I'm sorry, boys. I can't do much else about it. So I also yeah, that doesn't work. I added a boss loot table, the final two. You can see this is Sire. This is Stone Legion Generals. For example here, Wrath of Consumption, Affliction, Legendary. Feet and back. Recommended slot, feet. Why? Because Stone Legion drops a 233 right here, item level back, Crested Legionnaire General. So you're min-maxing your overall item level, higher eye level, more intellect, more secondary stats, all of that taken into account. The ones here that show NA, legs and feet. The final two bosses don't drop a pair of legs or any feet. So, you know, legs give more main stat, higher eye level from a legendary, make that. Now listen, it's important to keep in mind here, there are sort of two schools of thought. This is a good example on Sacrilege, right? I guess a better example could be, there are a handful of different examples, but early on, let's say you make, let's take Wilfred's for example right here. The options are wrist and a ring. Let's say early on, you say, okay, well, rings don't have main stat on them. So technically, you know, I want to craft a pair of bracers. For later on down the line, I'll have a higher eye level because none drop in the raid. There are no bracers in the raid at 233. I'll have a higher eye level down the line at rank 4. 235 bracers. I can choose my secondary stats. That's awesome. Keep in mind though, early on, they're probably going to be 190 eye level or, well, what, 210? You're not going to get all the added value until later on down the line. So early on, you're probably like hindering your power level a bit by making bracers. Comparatively, you could also make a ring, which doesn't have main stat on it. I will say, though, in Shadowlands, they've added a lot more secondary stats to rings. This has like 150 at 184 compared to like boots that have like 80, you know, 100-ish, depending on what you're doing. Rings have a lot of secondary stats, so it sort of offset the lack of intellect there. I don't know why they won't add int to rings. I think it's just a better long-term decision, but hey, that's beside the point. Early on, it might seem like a better idea to make a ring, but later on down the line, when you don't have access to higher eye level bracers in the raid, you're probably looking at a bit of a DPS loss over bracers, which is why I recommended bracers here in the long term. This is the actual recommended choices here are looking further on down the line, long term, once you're on farm and getting ready for the next tier, comparing it to the cloak, shoulders, fingers, chest, shoulder, finger, cloak, chest, there you go, from the last two bosses. Once again, the NA slots here, not North America. I know we're going to win the race to world first. I get it, but sorry, boys. The NA slots mean that there's nothing on these bosses. Neck and wrist, there's no neck, there's no bracers. Wrist and hands, no bracers, no gloves. So I just typically chose the highest, the piece that would give you the highest overall intellect and secondary stats, because there is a bit of added value being able to choose your main secondary stats for legendaries. So speaking or talking about that, at this current point in time, it's important to run your own sims. Like I said, people have been asking a lot about what secondary stats am I going to choose for legendaries. Chances are high it's probably going to be either haste or mastery, haste and crit. Haste is good across the board. When it comes to Destro, if you want to look at like my pre-raid BIST list, my own secondary stats are here for the most part. These are my own. Run your own sims. Int is very high, as you can see. This is Affliction. Mastery is high. Haste is high. Destruction. Everything's pretty close. Even going demo though, haste is here, mastery is here. So like I'm probably gonna end up choosing haste and mastery, but it could be haste and crit depending on the legendary, because you know I might not, for example, use Wilfred's very often for Affliction. And if that's the case, well then haste, mastery, and crit, they're all, I guess they're a bit, haste is ahead by a little bit here, but mastery, crit, and burst are all pretty close for Demonology, and Destro's pretty close too. I think the safest choice is probably haste and mastery, and it depends where tuning goes. But at this current point in time, that's my plan. So let's talk a little bit about which legendaries I'm looking at potentially crafting. Oh, by the way, I know shoulders is spelled wrong. I just saw it. I'll fix it. So you might be asking what my current plan is heading into the raid. Well, I mentioned already, I'm not crafting any legendaries until Mythic Week, unless there's a heroic boss that ends up being really tough and my guild can't get it down. We clear heroic every week. We're a Hall of Fame guild, but when it first comes out, week 1, we always clear it out. Regardless, I'm trying to wait as long as I can to craft any legendaries in case heroic week tuning ends up changing that, whether they buff a spec, nerf a spec, or target legendaries for potential tuning. I want to wait as long as possible. But looking at the math here, so I currently have 1,520 soul ash. Now, this is with just doing Torghast and the quests that are given to me. You can get more soul ash from your mission table. If you've got it, great, awesome, congratulations. I don't have any. So this is the baseline number here. Adding on 970, which is going to be next week being heroic because wings, or I guess layers 4, 5, and 6 open up. So you're going to have a total of 970 that week if you clear out Torghast layers 1 through 6 and go from there. Adding Mythic Week in, when layers 7 and 8 open up, you're going to have a total of 1,140 from that week for a grand total of 3,630 soul ash. So that means that you are probably going to be about 120 soul ash off of crafting a third rank 1 legendary if you want. I think the mission table missions are actually what? Aren't they actually 120 soul ash? Let me see here. They're 109, so I mean, it's close enough. You'll probably end up getting a few of these along the way, who knows. This is also not including any quest lines that Bolvar or whoever might give you for more soul ash. So I think it's pretty safe to say you can probably craft 3 rank 1s as long as my math is right the week the raid opens. Now, you can also craft the rank 2, which would be a 210 eye level piece, and a rank 1, which would be 3,250 soul ash, and you're probably sitting on about 400 or so. You can go from there. You can also craft 1 rank 3 legendary and have, you know, that one all around. Maybe, hey, maybe you want to make demonic synergy because it's good in every spot. It depends, but that is also an option. Rank 4 you can't do until probably the week after, but there you go. So you might be asking, what am I looking at legendary wise? So I will show you what I think at this current point in time I'm eyeing for legendary crafting. Keep in mind, boys, that things can change. Tuning could very well happen. They could buff legendaries, nerf legendaries, buff specs, nerf specs. They could do a million different things, and this could change. It is December 4th at 2 in the morning. At this current point in time, the front runners in my eyes. Number 1, Relic of Demonic Synergy. This is just good. At this point in time, it's probably your best AF legendary out there. It's good for Destro. It's good for Demo. Probably, in my opinion, you're probably gonna end up playing a decent bit of AF in this raid. It's just good. Even on the bosses that, you know, like Dance Boss or Stone Legion Generals, if you're not running Agony Shard Gen and capping on shards, trying to deal with mechanics, winds coming at you, Dance Boss, whatever it have you, Demonic Synergy might not be the most exciting, but it's a strong legendary and strong across the board. That's really good because it means that even if you want to make a rank 2 of it, or maybe 1 rank 3, it's universally acceptable. It's solid. Number 2, Wilfred's Sigil. Wilfred's is going to be very good for the Reign of Chaos builds that Destro might play. You might end up playing that on a couple bosses. Even without it, it has potential for Demonology, single target, Demonology and Plus, and Destro obviously in the raid AoE wise. If you're playing Destro and Plus, you're playing Wilfred's. So this maybe is a bit of a concession to wanting to run some Mythic Plus, but even in the raid, this is a very solid option and one that you definitely want to have in your back pocket. Number 3, we have Cinders, Agony, Malefic Wrath, and Horned Nightmare. These are all solid options as well. Cinders being triple conflict for Destro, Agony being 20% Agony Shard Gen. This is the Malefic Wrath Drain Soul, damage increased legendary for Affliction, and Horned Nightmare is the extra hand of Gul'dan casting one for Demonology. Now, this is probably going to be tough to narrow down. What's probably going to happen is that I wait to see what happens with tuning and maybe try to make a choice from there. I'm probably leaning a bit towards Perpetual Agony here, 20% Shard Gen. Cinders can be good too, but I think Synergy fills the gap better in, like, obviously single target AF, and even in like 2 target Havoc Cleave for Destro. Like, I think Synergy is probably pretty close enough to fill that gap, like be the better option over Cinders comparatively to Agony Shard Gen. You can sort of follow what I'm saying. Malefic Wrath could be good too. There are 4 patchwork fights this tier, and the final boss, Castle Nathria, is not pure patchwork, but his final phase, from what we've seen, is execute based. And hey, what does Drain Soul do? Deals twice the amount of damage in the last 20% of my boss. So that's important to keep in mind. Horned Nightmare, good all around for Demo, single target, AoE. Basically the solid across the board. Your 2 legendaries here though, Wilfred's and Relic of Demonic Synergy, like, they're the 2 universal ones and they're just good. Like, this is a good place to be. It really truly is. Now, like I said, at this point I'm looking at probably crafting at least 2 rank 1s, probably. There's a chance if we end up getting to, like, it's a chance I might make a rank 2 and a rank 1, or maybe just 3 rank 1s. This could change, but Demonic Synergy is a very strong effect right now, and in Wilfred's is pretty strong as well. Front runner here, probably Agony by a little bit, followed by Wrath or Cinders, and Horned Nightmare is there. Hey, we got to show Demonology some love. It could be good. Demonology could be sleeper good on a few fights this tier. That's the thing. Demonology is sort of like the wild card, being real this tier. Like no cap, being real. The Sims aren't there. Like, they're just not done. The raid opens in 4 days. There are some builds of Demonology, which we're going to look at on stream in a couple of days, that actually have been pretty impressive single target wise. And depending on how ads spawn on fights, how timings look, Demonology could truly be the case. It might be, maybe not, but we'll see where it goes. At this current point in time, these are my thoughts on crafting. It could very well change. I would encourage you to check back on the channel, on the stream, before Mythic Week, even mid-Heroic Week, to make sure I didn't craft anything early for confirmation. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope this video gave you all a better understanding of just my general thought and crafting process for legendaries heading into Castle Nathria. Now, I want to note, I didn't talk about it in the crafting section of the video here, that this is not taking into account the Great Vault or Mythic Plus rewards or whatever, pretty much just the Great Vault giving higher eye level things, because that will end up varying from player to player. It is very important to run your own sims. It is very important to run top gear sims, even gear comparison sims. If you have like a high pair of bracers that you got early on, maybe that shifts you more towards making a ring for Wilfred's, something along those lines. In the end, they're probably going to end up with a decent bit of soul ash before the tier is over, and maybe crafting both slots for different legendaries could end up being a decent plan, depending how loot goes heading into 9.1 and whatever raid that will be. Let me know what you guys think of these suggestions, the video in general, or in the comment section below. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them there, and I'll be sure to get back to you. Any weak auras, profiles, or add-ons you see here are indeed available for free on my Twitch. If you want to swing by, hang out, ask any questions, grab them anytime, feel free to do so. If you want to see more WoW content and help support the channel, be sure to smash that subscribe button below and hit the like button while you're down there as well. Once again, guys, I hope this video helps you out. Over the next coming few days, we're going to be having the, Warlock Castle Nathria video coming out as well, talking about different specs on each boss, what I recommend, and going from there. Thanks again, dudes. I really appreciate it, and I'll catch you all again soon. Peace.